to this session of History of Western and Indian Art. I am Snehal Tambulwadikar, an art historian currently working with Sir J.J. School of Arts in the Department of Art History and Aesthetics. In today's session, we shall be doing which is major artist of Expressionism. In the last session, we have already seen the various reasons why Expressionism took place. There have been multiple reasons like influence from literature, the fear of apocalypse, and the seriousness of the coming First World War. In this session, we shall be looking in detail at the works of four important artists from Expressionism. As we have already seen, Expressionism has flourished most abundantly in Germany. The Sturm and Drang movement of the later 18th century had been a pioneering attempt to break hold of the Mediterranean people on the north. The German expressionists of the early 20th century were steeped in their literature and ideas. Politically and socially, modern Germany has been the most disturbed of the European countries, with extremes of right and left-minded people. We have obviously seen a major wreck caused by these atrocities in the World War in which Adolf Hitler became the dictator. These contradictions in the citizens led to using of extreme methods in the battles of supremacy and disastrous wars to add miseries occasioned by over-rapid industrialization and urbanization. It is thus not any miracle that the Germans began to question the ideas of faith and believed in negative theology and apocalypse. The German art was and is fragmented by the fact of German Federation, the cities of Berlin and Munich becoming the important centers. Expressionism is associated with two informal groups of artists, the Dresden group that called itself Die Brücke or the Bridge, formed in 1905 and dissolved in 1913. And secondly, the Munich artists who exhibited under Der Blue Reiter, literally meaning the Blue Rider. In 1913, when Die Brücke was dissolved, Expressionist work was being attacked by conservative opinion as endangering German youth and as the daubs of lunatics. The concerned people from Berlin feared that the Expressionists worked not out of innocent desire but out of an ambition to get noticed at any cost. Impressionists were already the arch enemies of artistic decency. This wilder art that had emerged in Germany had come to replace it even in a worse fashion. To add on, there came about show of modern French graphic art, paintings from the Cologne Sunderban exhibition, which were rejected, who were later labeled as the French Expressionist. Along with the Expressionist groups like Die Brücke and the Blue Rider group, Germany also saw an important event which happened during the same time, that was establishment of the Bauhaus School of Industrial Design. Bauhaus School is related to Expressionist in the terms that two important artists from this ism and also the Blue Rider group, Paul Klee and Vasily Kandinsky, have been teachers there for a very long time. The Bauhaus ideology is developed from the ideas of thinkers like Immanuel Kant, who later have also been influential towards the abstract expressionist. Kant, who talks about expression of pure beauty and experiencing pleasure out of a work of art, was highly influential in all the works that took place during the Impressionistic times. Bauhaus School would have been developed only in Germany. The reason being that Germany, who was going through rapid industrialization and urbanization, was not in par with the other countries of Europe in terms of availability of raw material. They thus realized that if they had to compete with the other countries, they needed to have something which would uphold them in one way or the other. They thus decided that their products produced in industries could be better and not just mass productions like coming from other countries of Europe. They thus decided to form a school which was called as Bauhaus, which basically had workshops for already trained artisans or craftsmen to elevate them to the level of artistic endearing. This school was also a place where a number of artists came together and discussed great ideas about art. Unfortunately, it was closed down by Hitler during the World War. Let us have a look at the different artists from Expressionism in detail. Ernst Ludwig Kirchner was a German expressionist painter and printmaker and one of the founders of the artist group Die Brücke or The Bridge, a key group leading to the foundation of Expressionism in the 20th century art. In 1905, Kirchner, along with Blale and other two architecture students, Carl Schmitz Rudloff and Erich Heckel, founded the artist group The Bridge or Die Brücke. From then on, he committed himself to art. The group aimed to eschew the prevalent traditional academic style and form a new mode of artistic expression, which would form a bridge, hence the name, between the past and the present. They responded both to the past artists such as Albert Dürer, Matthias Grunwald and Lucas Cranach the Elder, as we have seen in our last session, as well as contemporary international avant-garde movements happening in other parts of Europe. As part of the affirmation of their national heritage, they revived older media, particularly woodcut prints. The group was one of the seminal ones which in due course had a major impact on the evolution of modern art in the 20th century and created the style of Expressionism. The group met initially in Kirchner's first studio, which had previously been a butcher's shop. Blale described it, saying that a real bohemian full of paintings lying all over the place, drawings, books and artist material, much more like an artist's romantic lodging than home of a well-organized architect. He volunteered for army service in the First World War, but soon suffered a breakdown and was discharged. In 1933, his work was branded as degenerate by the Nazis, and in 1937, over 600 of his works were sold or destroyed. In 1938, he committed suicide by shooting himself. Let us have a look at some famous works of Kirchner. Kirchner's works, like the other works of the Expressionists and their predecessors, express the disturbances that he might be experiencing living in Germany. If you have a look at this painting, which is called as the self-portrait of a soldier, you will see a soldier who is smoking, least concerned about anything in the world, with a very stark expression on his face. He also has a young nude woman sitting right on his shoulder. The painting is done with fresh pale yellow color and the use of blue and red, which was very popular and in vogue since the time Fauvist had begun to paint. The uniform that the soldier is wearing, titled The Self-Portrait with a Model, painted in 1910 by Kirchner, you will again see the use of red and orange done to describe the vulnerability and violence in the situation. Characteristic to Expressionist paintings, Kirchner shows the two characters who are painted in this work not looking at each other and seemingly not bothered about the feelings of what other is going through. This work, like many other Expressionist works, tries to represent the loneliness that person feels being in company with another. The use of stripes on the wardrobe of the artist, smoking a pipe, and with a palette and a brush in his hand are synchronized with the wallpaper which has been used as the background of the painting with the same colors. They flare the wall as well as the clothes that artist wears are all painted in the use of blood red. The model who is sitting behind also looks disheveled and not really beautiful like the classical art would have depicted her to be. The total painting looks disturbed and represents the disturbing conditions that expressionists would want to depict in their paintings as they saw in around their world in the Germany. The depictions of street done by Kirchner are some of his excellent works of expressionism. Some of them might even remind us of the works of Eduard Munch. The street, as you can see, is pale pink and grey, and the clothes that people wear are painted to be luminously yellow. At the same time, most of the characters in the painting are facing back towards the spectator and are diminishing circles and shadows. The three women who are walking towards the spectators have ghostly faces, pale green, greys, looking almost aghast by something which has happened on the street. Everybody seems to be in a hurry to reach indoors. None of the people which you see standing in the painting are comfortable. Contradictory to these paintings, if you remember works of the Impressionists, the people who stand there do not look disturbed like these are. Although the composition style and the usage of color is inspired from Fauvist and Impressionists, the effect that Kirchner has been able to make is highly disturbing. Another of the street scene paintings, where again Kirchner has depicted men in uniform who are walking on the street and a red dressed woman right in the center. Here again, every person who is walking on the street shows immense indifference to the other. They are all faceless in the sense that nobody has any expression beyond being blank. This is again one of the very powerful works of expressionism painted by Kirchner, where he has painted the landscape of where he belongs to. Maybe taking references from the early Fauvist works. In this work, Kirchner has been able to express, although painting a beautiful landscape, dead silence and feeling of uncomfort. Although the landscape does not have any feeling of violence or any warm colors, Kirchner here is able to get the death or something that is lying below in these valleys. In this work called the Chardes Dancers, Kirchner again has been able to gain the movement with the wave of dresses and also the brushing style. Although a beautiful painting, if you look closely at the faces of the dancers, they look ghostly. The makeup on their eyes is matching their dress and makes them look more like witches than attractive women. Also, the expression that he has painted on their faces makes you believe that they are forced to dance and not pleased or enjoying whatever their profession might be. Oskar Kokoschka was an Austrian artist, poet, playwright, best known for his intense expressionist portraits and landscapes. Oskar had a strong belief in omens, spurred by a story of a fire breaking at Pochland shortly after his mother gave birth to him. Kokoschka's life was not easy, mainly due to the lack of financial help from his father. Kokoschka was also not interested in his subjects, as he found he only excelled in art, and spent most of the time reading classic literature during his lessons. This education of classic literature is said to have influenced his artwork in later times. Kokoschka was the most controversial amongst the individual artists. Viennese Art Nouveau tended to support escapism and decadence. The young Kokoschka had used violent gestures to free himself from their embrace. He took pleasure in drawing to himself the anger of Viennese public occasioned by his writings as much by his art. Today it is difficult for us to see anything radical in the nervously elegant portraits of those years. His drawings have a sharpness that is more emphatically expressionist, but his direct contribution to the wider world of expressionism lies in his plays like Murder, Hope of Woman, which were produced in 1909, and The Burning Thorn Bush, produced in 1911. Kokoschka's life was controversial not only because of the plays that he wrote and the anger that he generated in the Viennese people and the German Orthodoxy, but also because of his violent affair with Alma Mahler. He has represented the rhythm and the violence that the relationship would have had in his work titled The Bride of Wind in 1914. Painted with frivolous brushstrokes and reminding us with his colors of El Greco, Kokoschka has expressed a violent embrace of a couple in love who, without any other characters or any other objects to support, makes us feel that has been rejected by the society. The female here is shown glistening with love amidst the mountains and the winds, while the male character is shown to be completely distraught, wrinkled, and engulfed in the cloth which has been entangled by harsh winds around them. In this work, Kokoschka seems to have brought in all the elements of expressionism, combination of forbidden love that was popularly expressed in religious themes, use of brushwork and colors suitable to the theme taken majorly from El Greco, and also the death of goodness or the death of pure feeling of love because of the society, leading ultimately to an apocalypse. Kokoschka here represents himself and his girlfriend in a wild embrace, almost making them divine by doing what is forbidden by the already sinful society. In his work done in the same period, that is 1909, called Children Playing, you will again see a very ardent expression of the two kids which are sitting together solemnly in an unknown environment. Abruptly different from his work The Bride of the Wind, in this work Kokoschka brings out mild expressions and is trying to question the future of these children. Kokoschka here represents the innocent who are unaware of what the violent future beholds them in the years to come. The girl and the boy, like all other expressionist paintings, have frozen expressions and do not seem happy and mellow like the kids would ideally look. In his work titled The De Hunsusung, painted in 1912, Kokoschka again has shown a completely distraught woman painted amidst disturbing brushstrokes. There is a very interesting landscape which has been painted in the background in the left corner. The woman seems to be sitting on the top of a mountain or a hillock without any clothes, almost as if thrown away from the society. The expression on her face and the hand that she has used to support her head put on the shoulder reminds us of the Adam and Eve expelled from heaven in Masaccio's works. Another work called The Lovers with the Cat, which Kokoschka painted in 1917, reminds us of Bride of the Wind, but is not as expressive and as powerful as that painting. Here too again, Kokoschka has interestingly painted the head of the girl as very bright and beautiful, whereas the guy looks extremely ugly. Both are into an embrace, but almost get amalgamated in the background due to the strokes that Kokoschka has used to paint their wardrobe and their hands. There again comes the characteristic uncertainty of expressionist paintings in Germany, which is evident on their faces. One of his most popular works is the self-portrait titled as The Self-Portrait of a Degenerate Artist. In this portrait, he has drawn himself with his classical disturbing brushstrokes, where his face amalgamates into the background, which seems to be like a landscape. This portrait, although does not seem to be as disturbing and as revolting today to us, this painting itself is kind of a revolt or going against the ideas of Nazism of contemporary Germany. In that period, most of the artists from Expressionism or any artist who was doing anything which was vibrant and going against classical ideas was considered to be degenerate and banned from the areas of Germany. Their paintings were either sold out or they were burnt or teared away. Artists thus showed their revolt and anger against such practices by painting these portraits. In his work, The Power of Music, we again see two people who are listening to music, but we cannot really say that they are enjoying it. The child who is at the right side of the painting rather looks to be afraid and almost running away at the sound of it. The man who is playing has a yellow devilish looking expression on his face, almost as if trying to kidnap the child or kill the child or harm the child in some way or the other. The background is painted with rapid brush strokes, and Kokoschka here has again made use of brilliant colors and brush technique to show the expression of fear. Vasily Kandinsky was an influential Russian painter and art theorist. He is credited with painting one of the first purely abstract works in the history of art. Born in Moscow, the son of Lydia Ticheva and Vasily Silvestrovich Kandinsky, a tea merchant, Kandinsky spent his childhood in Odessa, where he graduated at Greco-Odessa Art School. He enrolled at the University of Moscow studying law and economics. Successful in his profession, he was offered a professorship, chair of Roman law, at the University of Dorpat. Kandinsky began painting studies, life drawing, sketching, anatomy and so on at the age of 30. His fascination with color and symbolism and also psychology continued as he grew. In 1889, he was part of an ethnographic research group which traveled to Vologda region north of Moscow. In The Looks on His Past, a book which he has written on his own life, he relates that the houses and the churches were decorated with such shimmering colors that upon entering them, he felt that he was moving into a painting. This experience and his study of the region's folk art, particularly the use of bright colors on a dark background, was reflected much in his early works. A few years later, he first likened painting to composing music in the manner for which he would become noted writer. He writes, "Color is the keyboard, eyes are the hammers, the soul is the piano with many strings. The artist is the hand which plays, touching one key or another to cause vibrations to the soul." In 1896, settled in Munich, studying first at Anton Asby's private school and then at the Academy of Fine Arts, Kandinsky began his artistic career. He returned to Moscow in 1914 after the outbreak of First World War. Kandinsky was asympathetic to the official theories on art in the communist Moscow and returned to Germany in 1921. There he taught at Bauhaus School of Art and Architecture from 1922 until the Nazis closed it in 1933. He then moved to France, where he lived for the rest of his life, becoming a French citizen in 1939 and producing some of his most prominent works of art. He died in 1944. Kandinsky's artistic career can be divided into three parts. The first, his early phase, which was influenced by the nature that he saw in Moscow. The second, his career as a teacher, which was very influential in developing great designers from Bauhaus in Germany. And the third, his later phase, which was much influenced by his association with Paul Klee and the ideas of Immanuel Kant. In the last phase, Kandinsky turned totally towards abstraction and began experimenting with pure expression without any identified objects. As you can see in this early work of Kandinsky, painted in 1908, titled Modno, the Street with Women, you will see almost the visual of what he writes in his book. The streets, the background, the houses all seem to be ready painted for Kandinsky to depict in his works. The usage of color that he does is almost Fauvist or Impressionist, than expressionist. Although he is inspired by the ideas of expressionism, where he uses the colors not just for the sake of painting but to express his feeling about the area of village that he had visited. You will see that he does not really work with the way in which light might fall on the houses, but is rather interested in creating the total feel where the heads of the women, the wall of the house and the street all are fresh chrome yellows. The strokes that he uses also make him a part of Expressionist brigade. In another work painted by Kandinsky in his early phase or the first phase, you will find this nude, who is again painted with fresh chrome yellow on a luminous background of red and neon green. This nude again represents Kandinsky's attraction towards expression of his feelings towards the model rather than any voyeurism or what the model might be going through. The work Two Riders and the Reclining Figure marks a drastic change in the way Kandinsky depicted his expressions in the painting. You will find a marked difference between the landscape that he painted and the nude. Here the figures are almost diminishing in the background, the whole scene becoming an abstract visual where you cannot identify one object from another. Although Kandinsky has not yet left behind his love for color and his attraction towards neon reds, yellows and greens, you will see that his composition and way of depicting what he feels is now going towards a new path. In a series of works which Kandinsky painted from 1911 to 1913, titled as Compositions 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, he has now moved even ahead where he has begun giving his paintings titles which do not really project to any particular subject. You will also see a difference in which he is using colors and also his choice of colors. Although he has not completely separated himself on the use of yellows, blues, reds and greens, you will see that his palette is now becoming fresher and lighter. At the same time, his painting is becoming more and more abstract. Composition number 7, painted in 1913 by Kandinsky, is one of his most brilliant paintings and earliest of his abstract style that emerged in the later phases. Kandinsky says that this is one of the biggest canvases that he has ever painted. In this work, you will find that Kandinsky has completely changed his way of painting with small shapes which are neither geometric nor completely amalgamated into the background, which come out in force from the center of the painting. The whole painting seems dynamic since he has not literally flattened the planes here with some of the objects which seem identifiable, but yet you might not be sure whether they are what you feel they are. This is classical Kandinsky, where he now moves ahead to just lines and intersection of lines creating different shapes. In his later works like these, which he began painting in his later stage of teaching, we see that he does not work on the whole canvas like he did in his early stages of expressionism. He now makes use of a few forms which are inspired from child art due to his close association with ideas of Paul Klee and compositions which look almost like collage. It is important to understand the influence of Paul Klee in the life of Kandinsky during this period. Paul Klee, along with Paul Klee, inspired by Kant, was greatly interested in the idea of pure beauty and expression. He found a solution to these. Since Kant said that it was almost impossible to express pure beauty, artists could only attempt to reach it in some way or the other. Only children and primitives could have experienced something which is called as pure pleasure. Since children anyways could do it, Paul Klee went back to the idea of painting like children. In many of his works, you find that Klee tries to depict different atmospheres, objects, still lifes and landscapes as if a child would have done. He thus makes use of forms which are just representational and not really depicting the object as it is. Children also many times combine objects that they see around which are real and imaginary both at the same time, since children are partly into conscious and partly into subconscious state. You find a similar kind of imagery coming in the works of Kandinsky too. As you see in this work, you find illusions of seeds, a clock, a game, which might be what they look like and may be just geometric forms. Another of the Impressionist artists, Emil Nolde, was a German-Danish painter and printmaker. Emil Nolde was born as Emil Hansen near the village of Nolde. He grew up on a farm. Parents, devout Protestants, were Frisian and Danish peasants. He realized his unsuitability for farm life and that he and his three brothers were not at all alike. Between 1884 and 1891, he studied to become a carver and illustrator in Flensburg and worked in furniture factories as a young adult. He spent his years of travel in Munich, Karlsruhe and Berlin. As a child, he had loved to paint and draw, but he was already 31 by the time he pursued a career as an artist. He spent a brief time between 1906 and 07 as a member of the revolutionary expressionist group Die Brücke or the Bridge, as a member of the Berlin secession in 1908 and 10, but he eventually left or was expelled from both of the groups. In 1889, he gained entrance into the School of Applied Arts in Karlsruhe before becoming a drawing instructor in Switzerland from 1892 to 1898, eventually leaving his job finally to pursue his dream of becoming an independent artist. He was one of the first expressionists, a member of Die Brücke, and is considered to be one of the great oil painting and watercolor painters of the 20th century. He is known for his vigorous brushwork and expressive choice of colors. Golden yellows and deep reds appear frequently in his work, giving a luminous quality to the other sombre tones. His watercolors include vivid, brooding stormscapes and brilliant florals. Nolde's intense preoccupation with the subjects of flowers reflects his continuing interest in the art of Van Gogh. Nolde, all his lifetime, was a supporter of Nazi Party, which he began to be in the early 1920s. Like you see in this work, which is a brilliant watercolor painted by Nolde, he brings about a feeling of great discomfort and pleasure at the same time. It is almost a live description of the concept of pain and pleasure that Kant talks about. The purple that he has used in the clouds is brilliant and bright, but gives us a feeling of apocalypse or something bad to be falling down from above. The center of the painting is a pale yellow, seeming almost like a fire caught in some distant laid-back land. The part below could be mountains, rivers, amidst the apocalyptic adventure that Nolde has tried to depict in his watercolor. In his work, the seascape, which he says is a green sea under reddish blue sky, you will see that he is again making use of brilliant colors, again relating to similar feeling of discomfort and pleasure at the same time, which we saw in the previous work. When you look at his works such as Crucifixion, you are reminded parallelly of Gauguin and Grunewald, who were both inspirations for the Expressionist. All the figures that you see here are ghastly yellow, painted on dark backgrounds. The background on which he has highlighted the yellow makes them look even more ghostly and appalling. The expression on the face of the Christ is not that of a divine God who has taken pain for others, like you see in the work of Grunewald, but rather looks to be suffering greatly and much more human, almost as if in pain because his sacrifice for the humans seems to be gone in vain. What you see below in the left corner are Virgin Mary and Mary Magdalene, who look equally ghostly and almost like witches, with terrible expressions on their faces. Nothing of divinity of both is left when Nold paints them in his work. The soldiers that he has painted to the right end of the painting are least concerned about the violence that they have just committed and the effect that it has had on the family of the crucified. This almost seems like depiction of Nold done of the German adversaries after the wars. The spears of the soldiers and the headgears that they are wearing are painted bright, almost as if to highlight their position as ruling part of the painting. The two soldiers who are sitting below and the one who is almost crawling on his feet are shown playing with marbles. Nold is here trying to specially highlight the disconcern of the ruling authority towards the living of the common people and the suffering of the common people which goes completely in vain. The suffering is even more highlighted by the crucified rogue who is shown in the right corner of the painting with his ribs almost bursting out of his chest. Nold in many of his works repainted the religious scenes from Bible, precariously trying to show how the world has lost all faith ever possible. In this work again, Doubting Thomas, Nold interestingly paints the scene which is not very common in early biblical themes. Here you see that Christ is seen to be injured with wounds on his chest and hands, whereas Thomas is kneeling down to him, not ashamed to be doubted at all. The other apostles who are shown in the background are shown inquisitive and not troubled by the idea that Christ is doubting Thomas. In this work, where Nold has portrayed a family, a couple with a young child, he has been able to bring out strong emotion by the use of fresh cobalt ultramarine blue with which he has painted the clothes of the woman. The daughter, who is right in between, is not the center of attraction, contradictorily, although being in center of his painting. In another religious theme, painted in 1915 by Emil Nold, titled The Burial, you find the popular scene where Christ is taken down from the cross and carried away to be buried, which later would lead to his resurrection. Here again, Christ seems to be not almost like a wounded soldier who is being carried away after the war scene, and not much like a divine character who is supposed to resurrect after a few days of his burial. The use of pale yellow to paint the body of the dead man here, Nold has been able to highlight the wounds which have been painted in fresh red, again reminding us of Grunwald. In another ghastly work titled The Simeon and the Woman, painted in the same year as The Burial, 1915, Nold has expressed the vicious desires of human beings and the ones that lead them to their end. The women that are shown here have been shown with disheveled faces and lip gloss spread all over their cheeks, having least concern about who is looking at them and where their clothes are falling down. The saint, which has been shown in the center, has a very nasty look on his face, again showing the greedy people in the world. Religious subjects shown by Emil Nold in his works make him more of a symbolist than an expressionist. The war of 1914-18, that is the Second World War, ended the careers of some of the leading expressionist artists and left a very different Germany behind. Kandinsky, who was a teacher at Bauhaus, continued to paint his abstracts, but you will find that most of the other expressionists changed their course of painting or stopped painting completely. After 1918, historical primacy in art is usually given to Dada movement, particularly effective in Berlin during the First World War period. To the art and the industry essays of the Bauhaus and to the movement against expressionism of the 20s called De New/Cliché or the New Objectivity. It would be possible to go on and point to a large and small outcrops of expressionism in subsequent art and design. To what extent are Raoult, Chagall, Soutine expressionist? They are better seen as expressionist, although not part of the broad trend that warrants with the capital letter E. Since the Second World War, there has been a succession of expressionist waves in model and constructed sculptures as well as in painting, both figurative and abstract. It was to some extent in the American trend known as abstract expressionism that drew our attention back to the Kandinsky's generation.